Hello, everyone. Wyatt Claypool here, and we have some very good news and some very weird news to talk about today. I want to go through both pieces in this video. First off, we have very good polling news for the Conservative Party of Canada, and then second, which is the weird news, is that Jagmeet Singh and the federal NDP are now apparently against the federal carbon tax, which is something I can genuinely say I did not expect. I've been making fun of Jagmeet Singh for like the last 2 years for just being incompetent at politics. He doesn't know how to position himself on an issue. And for the first time ever, I'm going to say, good move, Jagmeet. That's actually a solid position to take. Does it contradict everything he said over the past 7 years? Yes. Yes, it does. At the same time, it's still smart for him to do. Anyways, first, let's get into this new poll from Ipsos. It shows the Conservative Party of Canada currently at its strongest position ever in the polls. We've seen polls where the pure Poilievre Conservatives are at 44%, 43%, but never 45%. 45% is like 230 seats territory. And even though this poll is showing the Liberals doing a little bit better than some of the other polls have been showing them, a lot of other polling firms have them at 22%, 23%. This one has them at 26. And I think this poll does actually kind of reveal why the NDP is now ripping up its supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals and taking this anti-carbon tax position. They are only polling at 16%, despite the fact that this poll shows the Liberals down about 7% since last election. The NDP is still also somehow down because the NDP is no different than the Liberals. And to be clear, as much as Jagmeet Singh is pretending that because he's ripped up the supply and confidence agreement that he is now against the Liberals, this carbon tax, this anti-carbon tax stance that Jagmeet Singh has taken is evidence to the idea that he's going to be more aggressive on the Liberals, but overall he still agrees with them on 99% of issues. He's still going to have his party mostly vote with the Liberals or symbolically vote against them here or there whenever there is, a vote where they know the Bloc's going to back up the Liberals and it's not going to trigger. But before I move on to talking about Jagmeet Singh and the carbon tax more in depth, I want to move over to another polling result that I thought was quite telling about the position that the Liberals are specifically in right now. I'll also talk about it relative to the Conservatives, but it's really hard to poll the Conservatives on this particular issue because of media coverage. But this poll result from, I believe, let's see what the firm is. I don't want to get it wrong. Angus Reid here. It asks people, do you feel the Liberal Party has shifted? And then they answer, more left, more right, or they've stayed the same. Now, when you've asked Canadians this question, 29% of people think that the Liberal Party of Canada has moved way more over to the left. 14% say a bit more to the left. 28% of people say it stayed the same. 10% say more right. 5% of people say way more right, which really, I think, just suggests that the NDP will always say, like a lot of people who vote NDP and Liberal will always accuse the Liberals of being right or something. It's because they really aren't any different than the Liberals, so they have to pretend they're corporate or something like that. Ergo, they're somehow right wing. If you think the Liberal Party of Canada and Justin Trudeau are right wing, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. Give me $1 million and I'll pay you back next week in like crypto or whatever. If you believe the Liberals are somehow at all center right, even, I don't know what planet you live on. But the fact that you have 29% of people saying that they've gone way more left is very telling. Probably 28% of people who are saying they've stayed the same pretty much encompasses all of the Liberals' current supporters, since you tend to assume your own party has never changed at all. I liked it 20 years ago and I still like it for all the same reasons, even though this is very much not Chrétien or Paul Martin's party. This is a far more ideologically left-wing progressive liberal party. They don't care about economics. They care about ideological purity to the narrative, to the progressive narrative about equity and about diversity and inclusion and whatever else the Liberals believe in. They believe in very abstract, esoteric ideas around like fairness, even though they actually make everyone worse off. Although, in a certain sense, that actually makes everything more fair if everyone is similarly broke. But I want to jump over to the conservatives polling, and just to more so demonstrate why a lot of this polling doesn't really work with conservatives, because media, in a certain sense, the poll's accurate. In a certain sense, it's not. So it asks people, do you feel the Conservative Party has shifted, just like the last one? And the results are way more to the right, 29%, a bit more to the right, 19%, stayed the same, 26%, a bit more left, 8%, a way more left, 4%, and which is probably a lot of people who either don't know how politics works or are voting for the PPC, although the last poll we looked at, even though it wasn't the same company, only showed 1% of people were voting PPC. But in a certain sense, it is correct that the Conservative Party has shifted right, especially since Aaron O'Toole. Aaron O'Toole was a center-left Conservative Party leader. He didn't believe in any fundamental conservative beliefs around social conservatism, around smaller government. He was basically just somebody who wanted to manage the liberal government slightly more efficiently. And that's not really conservatism in my mind. I think it was a Douglas Murray point that the problem with so many conservatives, and this very much applies to conservatives outside of the US, is that they only live to basically manage liberal governments more conservatively than the people who came before them. They're fighting for values that are not their own. So they never actually stake out new positions. Pierre Poilievre is very successful because he's saying, okay, rather than fighting for a status quo that's not our own, how about we fight for a vision of a new status quo that we can establish and then defend, rather than like the Aaron O'Tooles of the world who defend the status quo of like 2017. Wouldn't it be great if we could bring things back to 2017? 2017 wasn't that good either. Yeah, I'd take it over 2024, but we still had Justin Trudeau back then, and everything we have going wrong now is a consequence of things happening back in 2017. So that's where Aaron O'Toole couldn't even bring himself to be against the carbon tax. But now, smooth transition, we have Jagmeet Singh and the federal NDP saying they are against the carbon tax, or at least intimating they are. What they're going to do is this kind of theater. They're going to pantomime being against the carbon tax. At the same time, they will justify the existence of the carbon tax, just saying, oh, it shouldn't be applying to normal everyday people. It should just apply to corporations and oil and gas companies, all that stuff. Before I talk about that more in detail, I just want to shamelessly plug my legal fund in the description of this video below and pinned at the top of the comments. I am in this stupid legal battle with a Chinese billionaire suing myself and the National Telegraph for writing an article back in 2020. It's been a while that basically mentioned a bunch of reporting about him from the Globe and Mail, who reported about him a year and a half before we even talked about him. It's ridiculous, but he's suing us for defamation just to, show that he's powerful or something. And in over 2.5 years, he hasn't even provided any evidence that he's been defamed and that we were somehow lying about him. One of the pieces of evidence he submitted to the court was his LinkedIn profile, was his libel notice, his LinkedIn profile, his company website, and I guess our article. He had no actual evidence to prove that we had said anything that was false, which he even acknowledges it wasn't because he never sued the Globe and Mail for reporting on him, and that's our primary source on the guy. Anyways, so if you guys want to contribute, it's costed me over $32,000 fighting this case. You can contribute in the description below or in the comments below. We have the Give, Send, Go link there. So now, Jagmeet Singh, headline from Globe Politics. Singh signals NDP plan to oppose carbon tax, says it puts burden on tax of working people. Oh my goodness, how can I not read that? It feels like I'm dyslexic for a second. But yeah, so he's going with the narrative that the carbon tax is hurting working class people too much these days, which really brings up the question of, well, how wasn't it hurting people before this point? Jagmeet Singh has just realized that the carbon tax is not good for the economy, and when the economy sucks, it's not good for the average person. And this is where Jagmeet Singh is going to try and have his cake and eat it too. Carbon taxes are fantastic, according to Jagmeet Singh, but not when it hurts working class people. Well, how do you not tax the whole economy and not hurt working class people? You can't. And there's no way of saying that, well, we should just tax the billionaires and millionaires and oil and gas companies and corporations because they're the real polluters. Okay, well, if you tax them, their prices are going to have to go up. Not because they're mean and greedy, but because they can't run a company on a zero profit basis. That's not how most industries work. You don't do all this hard work to make no progress into the future just to pay for your groceries and to keep the heat on. You work and you like expand your company so that you can benefit. But Jagmeet Singh's going to act as if somehow he can isolate the negatives of the carbon tax to just these specific industries. But in a net consequence, that means he's probably going to come out and say that we need to scrap the federal consumer carbon tax and only apply it to industry. I think both need to go, but at least this is progress and puts Justin Trudeau in the corner. Luckily for Justin Trudeau, he still has the Bloc Québécois who will vote for the federal carbon tax all day long because Quebec already has a provincial carbon tax. And the Bloc Québécois will never vote for something that benefits all Canadians except for Quebecers. And so they will just keep voting to prop up this stupid carbon tax until Pierre Poilievre can get into office and scrap it, at which point I actually would think that the Quebec government would get rid of it. Already in British Columbia, the absolute coward of a premier of the province, David Eby from the BC NDP, said, oh, well, if the federal carbon tax goes, we might scrap our own carbon tax. Like, oh, goodness, you coward. You called Pierre Poilievre and his anti-carbon tax campaign a baloney factory when he wrote you a very nice letter asking if you would get on board the anti-carbon tax campaign. But now that Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the party with the fourth most seats in parliament, says that he might be against the carbon tax, David Eby starts falling all over himself to get out there in front of a microphone and say, oh, we might be against the carbon tax too. He's absolutely pathetic. I might need to make an entire other video on David Eby. The man is always like 5 to 10 years behind behind the times. Every time something happens, he is the last one who seems to get it. And this is no exception. He ended up shooting himself in the foot on the carbon tax multiple times, but then Jagmeet Singh, a man with no real power in Canada, tells him that he should get rid of the carbon tax. David Eby, stands up straight for the first time in his life and says, maybe we'll get rid of the carbon tax too if Jagmeet Singh's on board with it. But now I want to jump over to the Conservatives' response to Jagmeet Singh and the NDP being against the carbon tax, because it's quite brilliant. As much as it is a smart move for Jagmeet Singh to say, I'm a working class leader like Wab Kinew, I'm against the consumer carbon tax, he also has way too long of a history to actually make this look genuine. It still will probably benefit Jagmeet Singh, but the benefit is heavily dulled from the fact that he couldn't keep his trap shut and he couldn't figure out that voters were against this issue for like a very long time. So here's Pierre Poilievre saying, sellout Jagmeet Singh and the NDP voted 24 times to support Trudeau's carbon tax and his plan to hike it up to 0.61 cents per liter. That's their record. If they want to flip-flop, let them vote to trigger a carbon tax election now. And then this comes along with this video, which I think was pretty well done.
Mr. Singh, Mr. Singh, Mr. Singh, Mr. Singh, Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh.
And it keeps going. This video is literally a minute and 15 seconds long. That's only the first 29 seconds. I think it will win Jagmeet Singh some votes. Will it throw some progressives back over to the Liberals? Maybe. If this hurts Jagmeet Singh in the polls, in theory, it should help him. If it does hurt him, I think that will just prove that he has overloaded his own party with so many progressive, climate alarmist activists that now when he tries to take the sensible position, they all abandon him. But the people who are already against the carbon tax are pretty much all voting conservative already. So I could be wrong when I say that this could help him. That's how it might hurt him. But for the most part, it was a surprising move by Singh, and I actually, tip my non-existent hat at him for actually taking a chance for once in his life. Will it pay off? I don't know. Nobody really trusts Jagmeet Singh. Nobody really likes him. And this is actually kind of the problem, not to sideswipe the PPC now, but that's kind of the problem with Maxime Bernier. People don't really trust him. And when you're not an inherently trustworthy figure, you can't just take good positions and say people should vote for you because you have the correct position. Well, you don't have exactly a track record of being a responsible leader, so I'm not going to work hard to try and elect you or any of your MP candidates when you, in fact, it takes you a while to even get the right position, or you're only saying it because you're not popular and nobody cares what you're doing. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. If you want to contribute, again, to the legal fund, it's in the description of this video below. It's in the comment section. And if you live in British Columbia and you don't want David Eby to be your premier after October 19th, make sure to donate to the BC Conservatives. I also have a link to donate to the BC Conservatives in Abbotsford South in the description below, where I am helping out to elect BC Conservative candidates. We're taking in as much money into this local riding as possible, and we're going to be handing it out to other ridings in need where we have a chance to get rid of a BC NDP MLA or replace an old BC United MLA. Anyways, that's it for me today, guys. Have a good one.